Welcome to Pensar Basketball Live, and a lot of stuff has happened in the last 24 hours since we have not been live. I will explain my absence, but first I got to give a little bit of a shout out to one of our community members who fulfilled a multi-month long desire of mine to have better sound in this studio with acoustic panels. So I'll be installing those. So big thank you to Karen. Thank you so much. And that was off the Amazon wish list. So between acoustic panels and now a boom arm and soon to be installed a flag behind me and a Raptors thing, our studio reno is going well. The Toronto Raptors renovation is also going well. Let's talk about it. Bruce. $23 million Bruce Brown team option picked up. Bruce Brown trolling the Toronto Raptors on Twitter. Y'all really don't want me back, huh? And Zazu Elite, shout out Zazu, with the elite troll saying respectfully, no, we don't. It's great. Like the Toronto Raptors do not pick up Bruce Brown's $23 million option to keep him. I know they're saying all the right stuff. I listened to Bobby Webster on JD Bunkis talking about how they really appreciate Bruce as a player. Darko really likes him as a player. Of course. But he does not fit the current roster. He does not fit the current timeline. He is 27-ish, going on 28, and he'll be an expiring contract. And frankly, you just don't do some of the stuff he's done and say some of the stuff he's done if you expect to stick around in a place for a long time. People do tend to show their colors. So my belief is he's on his way out. The Toronto Raptors will have to operate as an above the cap team. I'll tell you why this might be a really good idea, right? Cersei Cat saying, I think he's staying. I think you're wrong, but let's explain it. So a few things have happened. Jonathan Mogbo, right, and Jacoby Walter were both introduced to the Toronto media yesterday. I thought Jonathan's interview was beautiful, and if you haven't watched it, we are going to play that towards the end. We're going to play both of them towards the end, but since it has been 18 hours, I'm assuming a lot of you diehards have already watched it, so we're not going to waste the time in the beginning to cover that. But I do think they're awesome interviews. Also, shout out to Hello and Welcome for interviewing. So that's Will Lou's podcast. Shout outs to them for interviewing Baylor's head coach on Jacoby Walter, and kind of getting the rundown on him. A lot of interesting stuff, coming out about Sasha Vezenkov this morning. A little bit of misinformation. A lot of Greek fans, a lot of European fans. There's a lot to trying to keep track of right now, right? There's a ton. There's like stuff coming at you. There's like people saying, no, they're going to let Bruce Brown expire. And then some people are saying, no, they're going to trade him. This guy's on the move. Trae Young literally just followed Victor Wembanyama. I have not confirmed that to be true, but apparently that is on the true. And two of my favorite players in the entire league got traded. So there's a lot to talk about. This is the worst day to have the day that I've had the last 24 hours. And if you continue, I will tell you what happened over the last 24 hours of my life. It's interesting. It might be something that you can learn from, but it's not basketball related at all. So I'm going to keep that towards the end as well. So DeJounte Murray trade. Literally 3 of my favorite players have been traded in the last 48 hours. Dyson, AJ Griffin, DeJounte Murray. DeJounte Murray going to the New Orleans Pelicans, Dyson Daniels, Larry Nance Jr., multiple picks going back to Atlanta. Atlanta is signaling they are rebuilding. I get it. I fully get it. They're going to build around Zachary Sachet. I think Atlanta is doing a great job. I trust Landry Fields. I remember him back in the day when he was with the Raptors. He's a really smart guy. And if you're a Toronto Raptor fan, you should be pretty scared because there's a team that is pretty much perfecting. There are three teams that are literally perfecting the vision you started. Vision 6-9 is alive in Orlando. Vision 6-9 is alive in Boston, and Vision 6-9 is now going to be alive in Atlanta. And those are 3 division rivals that are perfecting your vision. And while you are, spending $175 million on Emmanuel Quickley and picking up, $3 million team options on Bruce Brown. So I don't think the Raptors are done. So Jay saying Raptors putting in an offer to Jalen Smith. So it will be interesting. I've read some conflicting stuff. I've mentioned this many times. I'm not a capologist, so someone will have to correct me if I'm wrong. There's a couple of things that have been floating around that we need clarification on first. Number one is the Sasha Vezenkov situation. So someone that I spoke to that would know this morning, because I got a notification that Sasha was going to Olympiacos, right? It was previous team. And yeah, I assumed, shoot, like I guess it didn't work out with the Raptors, too bad. But and another thing that I got to correct myself on, I had always anticipated or had thought that he had signed a 3-year deal with the Sacramento Kings. So I assumed he had 2 years remaining. He has 2 years, but the third year is a team option. So technically, he only has 1 year guarantee. If it doesn't work out for him this year, they could just decline his team option, which they surely would if things are not working out for him. So really, the Toronto Raptors traded for an expiring contract. If you think about Sasha Vezenkov that way, his team option presents maximum flexibility for it. Team options are awesome. They're better than expiring contracts. I don't think people fully understand the context of it. It allows maximum flexibility. Bruce Brown's contract, had you properly used it, it, it provided the team that held this contract with maximum flexibility because you can roll over the expiring to 2 years. He's technically an expiring contract for 2 straight years. That's the context of a team option and why team options are so freaking awesome. Player options are the exact opposite of team options in that they provide 2 years of instability for the team holding the player with the player option, which is why it's so disastrous whenever the Raptors give out a player option, which seems to be every single contract they sign, they give out a player option. My point is, the team option element of Vezenkov's contract is actually a really, really good thing for the Raptors because it allows them to operate with him as if he is, in fact, an expiring contract. Davion Mitchell is also a player with a team controllable expiring contract, which is to say, if a team were to trade for Davion Mitchell or Sasha Vezenkov, the team would have maximum flexibility going forward with those two players. They would own their bird rights. They would have the right to have them on their roster next year. They would have restricted free agency on Davion Mitchell, which is to say that he would not become an unrestricted free agent if he did work out for them, which means that right now, as much as some of you have probably sold yourself into the conceptually, that Davion Mitchell is some, elite fit with the Toronto Raptors, I don't think he is. Okay, he shot 36% from three, fine, but if Jamal Shed shows anything, he's a 22, 23-year-old player. He's very capable of slotting in as a backup guard himself right now. I don't even think there's a really big gap between Jamal Shed and Davion Mitchell right now as players. So personally, I don't see the point of having two of these guys on the same team. I understand there's a Baylor connection. Jacoby Walter actually talked about it. In one of his interviews, I can't remember which one, where he talked about like one of the biggest reasons he went to Baylor was Davion Mitchell. So a lot of people kind of sold themselves on, oh, yay, they paired these two guys. Dude, forget that stuff, right? So, anyways, so I think that it is important to realize that the Raptors have a boatload of assets that, while individually don't look all that appealing, they actually present a very unique team building option for the team that holds those contracts. The contracts in question are the following: Bruce Brown, straight expiring $23 million. Sasha Vezenkov, 1+1 team option. Okay. Chris Boucher expiring $12 million, and Davion Mitchell, team controlled expiring contract rookie extension deal. Those contracts together put you in place to help another team massively. You will be compensated, of course, for helping that team. But if the goal is to not compete, if the goal is to help all these young players kind of just figure their way out into the NBA, the Toronto Raptors are actually one of the really weird teams right now, whereas they don't have cap space like the Philadelphia 76ers or the Orlando Magic, and they won't be able to absorb a player into their cap space. And some of us are kind of bummed, like, why didn't you use your cap space? I think you have to leverage this. You have to consider this from a 2-point option. Number one, what's more valuable to you? Having a combined nearly $45 million of expiring contracts to be able to send to a team that might be facing a massive, massive tax bill on longer term contracts that they don't want on their books. Longer term contracts, including or especially like guys like John Collins in Utah, right? Another example would be CJ McCollum, right, in New Orleans. Another example would be Andrew Wiggins, right? The exchange on this is as follows. Andrew Wiggins right now seems like a really, really, really bad deal for the Golden State Warriors, right? Let's just be honest. He's been maligned, he's been trashed, whatever. Obviously went through some personal stuff. He's had a very up and down career. But just 2 years ago, Andrew Wiggins, we're talking literally 2 calendar years ago, Andrew Wiggins was the second best player in a final series. That guy is signed to a contract to, I believe, $26 million, something like that. I don't have the number right in front of me, but it was like 26 million, $25 million. That contract is considered an albatross right now. It is a massive overpayment. It just so happens that that player, Andrew Wiggins, with that resume, if you were to try to sign Andrew Wiggins in free agency right now, bet money you'll probably pay you, not anyone else, but you, the Toronto Raptors, given how you sign players, would probably pay $20 million for 3 years. That's probably the contract you would sign Andrew Wiggins to. He would sell himself on former first overall pick, 2 years removed from being so great in the finals. I mean, we keep talking about how great Bruce Brown was the last finals. He was a bench player, and he was nowhere near as good as Andrew Wiggins was 2 years ago. So if Bruce Brown is not an albatross contract, when we traded for him, he had $46 million, $45 million 2 years. How is Andrew Wiggins such an albatross? Andrew Wiggins is a much better player than Bruce Brown. Let's just put that out there. Andrew Wiggins at full strength is a much, 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 much better player than Bruce Brown. Like, I'm not a big Andrew Wiggins fan, but please keep a buck a buck. John Collins is a better player than Bruce Brown. All things equal. These players are not liked or, whatever, because maybe they're not being used properly, but the Raptors have a style or a system that they believe they can use some of these players well. Maybe someone else's garbage is actually something that you can use. You have a lot of young players coming up for contract extensions years from now, right? Scotty's contract kicks in the year after this year. So you get 1 year off, kind of a relief, if you will. If you take on 3 years, in 2 years, that's also an expiring, right? So really, you're parking your cap space. My point is, you don't get the only way to benefit from cap space is to use it well. And the Raptors have shown in years past and this year, they're not the greatest at negotiating contracts, right? So, and maybe the Warriors are. Because if the Toronto Raptors had tried to get Andrew Wiggins as an unrestricted free agent when he was signing with the Warriors, hometown discount or not, this is a hometown kid. He's from Kitchener? No, that was Jamal. He's from Toronto, right? Andrew Wiggins from Toronto? Bro, you would have had to pay this guy like 32 million instead of the 24, 25 that the Warriors signed him to. So my point is, free agency doesn't work for you. This is probably why the Raptors choose to buck free agency and just say, you know what? There's not a strong free agent class. Yeah, the concept of cap space sounds nice. Vaughn, there we go. Yes, you're right. He is from Vaughn. Yes. Now, the point is that since you are helping them with their tax bill and you're well aware of that, and they have a boatload of young players on their team. Now, maybe they're not going to give you Jonathan Kuminga, and frankly, I'm not fighting for it. And maybe they're not going to give you Trace Jackson. Don't worry, I understand that. And maybe they're not going to give you Brandon Podziemski, but can they give you a future first-round pick? Can they give you a future first-round pick, and can they give you Moses Moody? Can they make that offer work? And in exchange, you could give them Sasha Vezenkov, again, buyout candidate, and Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown fits in with what they want to do. It takes 1 year off their cap. It also allows them potentially to trade that same thing. He's an expiring contract, allows them cap flexibility going forward. It also gives them an expiring contract going into the trade deadline. You're trading flexibility for stability, right? Stability within your own organization. You're having someone come in. You may like, you as an organization don't value players the same way, as we have seen. I'm not a stupid person. I would have given up a future first or something for, someone like AJ Griffin. I would have given like I would have given up the 19th overall pick for AJ Griffin. Let's just put it that way. But the Hawks decided he was worth only the 44th. Okay, cool. Dyson Daniels being just kind of schlepped into that deal for DeJounte Murray. I don't think I would have done that. I believe in Dyson a lot. So people have different values for things. We may value Andrew Wiggins very differently than the Warriors do right now. And by the way, players are not static things. There's a case to be made that he's better in your system than he is in theirs. Sounds absurd, doesn't it? How could you be better away from Steph Curry than you are with Steph Curry? Well, I don't know. How can you be better in Toronto if you're RJ Barrett than you were next to Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle? Well, I don't know, because RJ Barrett just had one of the best half seasons of his life. Why? The Raptors need three things, okay? Honestly, they need talent, they need athletes, and they need defenders badly. You play transition, you're playing with big playmakers. You need big wings who can run the paint. You need big wings who can score on three levels. I understand Andrew Wiggins has tons of issues, myriad of issues. But if the Warriors are not interested in preserving that relationship, which, blocking him from playing for the Canadian national team, maybe not the greatest idea in the world, right? That doesn't go a very long way. And you typically don't see teams take such a public position on a guy so last minute, right? My read on this is the Warriors are trying to trade him and they don't want him playing with Team Canada because if something happens injury wise, they'd be stuck. So if he's the bargaining chip, I suspect the Toronto Raptors would be one of the first teams to call, because that contract, as albatross as it may seem to you, the Warriors facing a tax bill, facing Steph Curry's prime, trying to build around him, maybe his relationship has soured with the team, with the coaching staff after everything that's happened over the last 2 years. We may not feel that way about him. Because to me right now, if you're telling me that the cost of trading Bruce Brown for Andrew Wiggins is I take 2 extra years on Andrew Wiggins and I get back Moses Moody in a draft pick, I'm signing on the dotted line. I will take that because Moses is a guy that fits as well. You're trading 2 for 1. And you can throw in Davion Mitchell, Sasha Vezenkov, you can throw in Chris Boucher, whatever. None of these guys fit what you're trying to do. Sasha is a stopgap solution. Davion, I think, is a bust. That's just my opinion. I like him a lot. Kings fans like him a lot. My boy Leo, he's defended him ad nauseum. Does not read future, guy. But hey, maybe Davion's a part of your future, but maybe Chris Boucher is not, right? I don't think Chris Boucher is a part of your plans. Darko Rajakovic has talked extensively about the players that work in the system and the players that don't. He's talked about it in books. He's talked about, not books, papers. He's talked about it in European lectures. He's talked about it in Serbian interviews. The players he values are important. I was doing a deep dive the other day on JJ Redick. I was looking through all his podcasts and trying to figure out, what does he value? What does he not value? These things matter, man. If you have a coach who absolutely prioritizes playmaking in his bigs and three-point shooting in his guards, your roster is going to take that. It's going to take shape around what that coach values. You don't think it's a little bit of a shocking coincidence that JJ Redick shows up and suddenly you're drafting suddenly you're drafting Dalton Connect over Isaiah Collier? Because I'll tell you right now, Rob Pelinka picks Isaiah Collier 20 times out of 20. If JJ Redick is not in that room, I am 90% sure Rob Pelinka picks Isaiah Collier. I think he would have picked Isaiah Collier. I could be wrong. Maybe they would have picked Dalton Connect either way. But I'm saying that the way your coach thinks has a great deal of focus because, as I said, players are not static. RJ Barrett in New York, RJ Barrett in Toronto, different players, man. And I'm fairly critical of RJ Barrett for his deficiencies defensively, but offensively, this man was a revelation, and he played for a very depleted roster, and he was great. He was great for the Raptors. He was fantastic. I don't think people are giving him full credit. You have to look at his numbers and you have to look at the context in which he put those numbers up. RJ Barrett was freaking awesome for the Raptors. The Raptors have a type and they know what fits their system. Now, I obviously have recovered over, the initial shock of how much they paid for Emmanuel Quickley. I'll go to my grave telling you that they overpaid for him. How much they overpaid for him, I don't know. It turns out to be they overpaid by $2 million. Maybe it turns out to be they overpaid by $10 million. I hope for the Raptors' sake that it's actually much closer to 2 than 10, because obviously I am a Raptor fan and I want Emmanuel Quickley to do fantastically well. So I hope that no one took the overly aggressive, F-bomb laced, aggressive tone of yesterday's live to mean that I hate Emmanuel Quickley. I love Emmanuel Quickley. In fact, if I had a second Raptor jersey, it would be an Emmanuel Quickley jersey. I have a Scotty Barnes jersey because my girlfriend gave me one, but I like him a lot. And I hope that, because as these things go, sometimes you say something negative about a player in that context, Emmanuel Quickley is not worth this. And then that thing goes to Twitter, and then someone sent it to that player. And now Emmanuel Quickley probably, who has been perfectly fine, with us, and he's really cool with us. So now he probably thinks Pensar Basketball hates him. This is unfortunate reality of Twitter, unfortunately, but I can't do anything about that. I think he's overpaid. Emmanuel Quickley, if you ever see this, please prove me wrong. Please prove me wrong. I hope that you get everything. But I loved hearing this thing where I think it was Jacoby Walter who said, has anyone texted you? And he said, yeah, Emmanuel Quickley texted me and he said, let's work. I like that. And you know what? I'll tell you, and I said this to Brian as well. I think I said this to Brian. I might have said this to Brian. I don't remember. But I think I said this to somebody very recently in a DM where I was like, I think that Emmanuel Quickley has had this fantastic imprint on Scotty as well. Like that seriousness is really great. And I'm actually sensing a lot of that synergistic overlap with Jacoby Walter as well. Like I sense a very stoic mindset with him. So it's good. Anyways, in terms of the Raptors, what can they do? I think that they can do two big trades. I think they can do two or they can do one big trade. And I think in every single trade, the format will be exactly the same. We can take back more money because we are considerably under the luxury tax threshold, right? So in that deal, you can send out 45 short term for 52, 53 long term, which means you can help a team shave tons of money off their books if one, the players fit your system, right? They might be a little bit overpaid, but if they fit your system and you're being fairly compensated, because this has to be looked at as a full puzzle. For instance, on the one hand, we can agree that Emmanuel Quickley is overpaid. Maybe you don't agree with me, and that's fine. But can we agree that if Grady pops, he's underpaid? Can we agree that if Scotty Barnes actually pops and becomes like a really, really like elite superstar all NBA guy, that he'd be underpaid? Can we agree that if RJ Barrett continues to play how he played and ups his defense a little bit, he'd be slightly underpaid relative to market value? We can agree on all that, right? So even if one guy is slightly overpaid, can we agree that Jonathan Mogbo is probably going to be underpaid if he's a rotation player next year? Because that dude can ball. I'm telling you, like he's not a starter, but I think that guy could play like a 10th role in the NBA right now. I think he's going to get stronger. I think he's going to get better. I think he's going to figure it out quickly. But you know what I mean? Like he's going to be making like $1 million, $1.5 million a year as a second round pick for like 3-4 years. He's ready to play right now. That's what the Raptors were talking about. There was I don't know if it was Darko in a Serbian interview. Yes, it was Darko. I think it was a Serbian interview that he gave, in which he was talking about getting players who are ready to contribute right now, like prioritizing players like that in the draft. And it was a little bit conflicting because you have Masai saying, we're going to rebuild. And on the other hand, you have Darko saying, we want players who can help us win now. Well, in this draft, you kind of got that, right? You got Jamal Shed, who in theory, I'm not saying he's as talented as Andrew Demhard. Don't get me wrong. Different types of players, not as good, not as talented, not as dynamic. Fine. All that stuff, be damned. But a different type of productive, right? We've seen um Shepherd, Ben Shepherd. That was a second round pick, right? He was a mid 50s pick, right? We saw Ben Shepherd play playoff minutes last year for the Indiana Pacers. They're a pretty deep team. He's a second round pick. Andrew Nemhard is 2 years removed from being a rookie. He's playing closing lineup minutes. Do you understand, like on a 4-year deal or a 3-year deal, what a crazy value it is to have a rookie who can contribute right away and not cost you minutes? Jaime Jaquez, Brandon Pajimski as mid first round picks who are 22, 23 years old. Yo, I know the Raptors have had a disastrous track record picking older rookies. Rafael Arujo comes to mind as one. But when it hits, when it's right, it's a great value. I understand it's not as hypey as someone like Ulrich Shamshay, right? Where it's 18 years old, raw as fucking hell. But you got to think about this long term. Ulrich Shamshay, you're going to develop him. you're going to pour millions of dollars into this guy. I'm talking time, money, actually paying the guy to play basketball. He's a professional basketball player when he probably should barely be in Division One basketball right now because of the athletic profile. Consider the return on investment here, the ROI, if you will, right? He's going to pay, you're going to pay him $3 million. You're going to devote probably another $3 million of infrastructure, shooting coaches, blah, 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 blah. And by the time he's a free agent or a restricted free agent and he hits his second contract, you will have probably extracted zero value out of this guy. I promise you. All the value in the Uber Shamshe exchange will be you to him, not him to you. He's not helping you at all. He's not building your culture. He's not coming in and leading your fucking locker room. He's not doing shit for you. He's going to cost you minutes. He's going to cost you minutes. And then none of this is a detraction to him. This is the concept of a project. Unfortunately, these are the players that most draft fans become really big fans of. The long guy with the big arms who can't fucking play basketball. That's the guy y'all want usually to draft. The guy who's 2 years away from being 2 years away. That's spicy, right? But the guy who gets overlooked, the Jamal Sheds, the Jonathan Mobos, the Isaiah Crawfords, these guys who actually do have a chance to come in right away, they give you return on investment right away. Herb Jones, imagine a contract like Herb Jones, the guy plugging starting right away. OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, these guys, I know OG wasn't older, but he was ready right away. The concept of a rookie who's ready to play right away is awesome. And the Raptors actually got 2 rookies who project to be ready to play right away, and a third who might be, and a fourth who's probably never going to be, you know? And what I'm saying is, if this Ulrich Shamshe thing works out for you, guess what? After you've put in $7 million, if he's shown any flash of potential, you'll have to match a restricted free agency offer of like $20 million a year for him. Asufane, apologies if I'm not saying that correctly. Do you think Darius Garland was overpaid? Yes. Yes, I do. He had a really bad year and then he had a really good year. And quite frankly, they paid him on the good year as opposed to the bad year. I've heard a lot of people, talk about Darius Garland's contract in context of Emmanuel Quickley's contract. Darius is a better passer. He's a better ball handler. He's got a lot of advantages. He's also a significantly worse defender. So, I think he's a little bit overpaid. Yes, I do. Anyways, long story short, I think the Toronto Raptors have a very interesting opportunity to canvas the field. They are one of the few teams in the league, I believe, that are in this position to be able to basically aggregate $38 to $45 million of serviceable role players. And that's the difference. We're not talking Zach LaVine and Bradley Beal. These are not role players. These are star players who are very bad stars. We're not talking about guys who are crazy injury prone. No, we are talking about guys who actually serve a need. They're just massively overpaid. Chris Boucher, if he hit the free agent market, there's a contender out there that would sign him for $6 million. Promise. There's just no one out there that would sign him for $12 million. Now, when he had 3 years left on his deal, that's an albatross. As an expiring, it's not so bad, right? Bruce Brown, same thing. He's got a $23 million contract right now on a 1 year. However, if a contending team right now, if he just had hit free agency, what would he have gotten a full mid-level from somebody? Yes, he would have. So you need to find that team. You need to find that team, because that team that would give him the full mid-level, the numerous teams that were willing to offer him $14, $13, $12 million last summer when the Indiana Pacers came in and blew him away this 45. You need to find those teams and you need to get them to give you value. And the value that they would give you is obviously the long-term contract or your short-term contract. But nevertheless, my point is your contracts, whether it be Davion Mitchell, whether it be Sasha Vezenkov, whether it be Bruce Brown, whether it be Chris Boucher, all of these guys are actual NBA players that fit someone's rotation, and they're not total unplayable busts. They're not overpaid star prima donnas. They're not. Would you take on Aytons if compensated? That is a really good question. No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. DeAndre Ayton is in not touch for me. There's like 25 to 30 players in this league that I don't touch with the 10-foot pole. DeAndre Ayton's one of them. James Wiseman's one of them. Like, the Raptors are doing something really interesting here, and I think that it was very fantastic to listen to these interviews, right? Not only the interviews that Jacoby Walter and Jonathan Mogbo did, not only the interviews that their coaches did about them. It's not just that. It's actually just the full spectrum of trying to understand the people that the Raptors are bringing into the organization. It seems like they're bringing in these really nice people, like these really good people that just have this very civic duty mentality. And honestly, having a locker room, like maybe the Raptors are overcorrecting given all the drama and intense leaks and all the bullshit and all the contract stuff that they went through last, 2 years, especially the previous year with, you know, everything. We're talking Pascal, Fred, Nurse, all of it. Like maybe they're just tired of that so much so that they've overcorrected to the other extreme where they're just bringing in guys who are like just overly good people. But this is a good thing to have. Having no drama and no ego in your locker room is such a clean slate. It's such a great thing to have. You need people who have strong personalities. You need people who push the envelope, but in a respectful way, in a productive and healthy way. You need people with strong opinions. You need people who want to win. You need people who call their teammates out, but again, in a healthy, productive way. What you don't need is people who bitch and complain and then leak to the media. What you don't need is people who are going to, sabotage their teammates or freeze their teammates out. So I think Ben Shepherd was the 26th pick. Was he? I can't believe that. Oh shit, he was. I apologize. Who did they get the second round? I apologize. Why did I think he was a second round pick? Hold on. 2023 NBA draft. I apologize. This entire time I've been like thinking to myself, man, how'd they get this guy in the second round? Hold on 1 second. So in terms of, players who contributed that were outside let's just say outside the top 30 prospects. So this is just last year's draft, the players who that I could tell you like actually contributed a little bit. Leonard Miller was fine in the minutes that he actually did play. Okay. I can certainly say that. City Sissoko, not so much, but Gigi Jackson was pretty cool. Um, who was it? That was Tumani Kamara, 52nd pick, was incredible. So it is Tumani Kamara and Trace Jackson Davis, 57th pick, was incredible. So like, I mean, I think I'm using the word incredible a little bit liberally, but and then in 2022, if we look at the second round in terms of like serious value picks in the second round, in 2022, we had Jaden Hardy, who was just, playing in the playoffs, right? We had Gabriel Procida, who was traded to Detroit, who is a really good player, but is overseas right now, and I think he could be fine. We had Andrew Nemhard as a 31st pick. Christian Koloko, unfortunate things, 33rd pick. 34th pick was Jalen Williams for the Thunder, and he was playing playoff minutes, and he was really impactful. Max Christie occasionally played this year for the Los Angeles Lakers. Josh Minot is freaking awesome for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Vince Williams Jr., one of my favorite 3-and-D guys. He was the 47th pick. Again, older guy, VCU. Anyone else? Anyone else? Anyone else? I don't know. Jury's still out on some of these guys, right? The vast majority of them are not going to work out. We know that. But, 7, 8, 9 of them almost always become something, right? Maybe they don't become stars, they don't become anything, but they don't become anything of super consequence. Did I say J Dub? J Will. J Will. Did I say J Dub? Leonard Miller, SP saying Leonard Miller is intriguing. I agree. So, who could the Raptors actually trade for? And why does it matter? I think what they're looking for and the preparing of the trade and what they really want I think I have honed in on what the Raptors absolutely really, really want. I feel like I'm singing the Spice Girls, "Wanna tell me what you want, what you really, really want," that whole thing. Okay, so what I think the Raptors really, really want, and I'll tell you what the Raptors really, really want. This is gonna be an epic, epic bit. Um, I think the Toronto Raptors want 2025 first round picks badly. I think they want this. I think there is something about this draft. Like it's hilarious, but liberal saying, um, LD saying, duh. Sure. Yeah. So the 2025 first round pick specifically, I think they are looking at any cost necessary to get picks and then gamble that those teams would struggle the way they struggled. Being on the other end of this, the Toronto Raptors gave up obviously control of their first round pick to the San Antonio Spurs this year and naturally lived in peril, right? So if you can project the downfall of another team, maybe a team that's maybe a little too ambitious about their outlook, maybe a team like Sacramento, maybe a team like Golden State, maybe a team like Golden State, who might be on the verge of signing Paul George and they're just like, "Oh, great, we don't need a 2025 pick or whatever." I think you need to scour the league and find a team that is willing to give you a somewhat protected or unprotected 2025 first round pick and absolutely just go bonkers and try to get that pick. Because I'll tell you right now, I think the Toronto Raptors have several targets in the 2025 draft. The way they've talked about this, the way they're trying to structure this roster, everything seems to me to be geared towards this. Also, the trading of the 24 pick, like again, to put this into context, these things are mapped out so far ahead, right? When they started scouting Scotty, they were scouting him in U16. So think about that. He was drafted 5 years after that or 4 years after that. So they already know AJ DeBonsa. They're aware of AJ DeBonsa in the 2026 draft. They're aware of Cooper Flag for the last 3.5 years. They know this 2025 draft is going to be huge. Not only is it going to be huge from a potential pick up a player that's going to fit into your core and go long term. So I think that my initial projection of the Toronto Raptors want to start contending by 2026 might need to be adjusted to I think the Toronto Raptors want to contend in 2027. Um, that doesn't mean they're going to totally tank this season. I think what it means is they're going to take this year to experiment. They're going to take this year to take on contracts that other teams don't want, but they're going to try to load up on draft picks. I think this team is really hungry for draft picks for the first time in a long time. And if you've been a Raptor fan for the last 10 years, you've seen us trade draft pick after draft pick after draft pick. This is not a team that has ever gone that route with draft picks. Can you remember the last time the Toronto Raptors were like trying to gather draft picks this way? They're harvesting draft picks at this point. They traded Pascal Siakam virtually all for draft picks. You don't think at some point they could have changed 2 of those draft picks for something else? You don't think they could have gotten Jalen Smith? You don't think they could have gotten something more? You think the Indiana Pacers were just like, no, we're going to give you 3 first round picks or nothing. No, the Toronto Raptors wanted those picks because it can convert those picks into something else. I think this is a team that desperately wants to trade into the 2025 draft. I think they're going to want flexibility within that 2025 draft. I think they're going to even this Kings trade, it netted them what? A high second round pick in the 2025 draft. They are pooling assets for that 2025 draft. Consider even Jacoby Walter, right? If Jacoby pops, like if he has a great rookie year, could you package Jacoby Walter and maybe your pick to move up 3-4 slots? Yeah, you can. So I think that this draft, and of course, Indiana, they traded for the 2026 first round pick, Indiana. So every single trade that the Raptors will make, and they could make one big one for multiple firsts, or they could make 2, 3, 4 smaller ones, right? They can keep doing this. They can keep doing this indefinitely, right? So for instance, let's say right now you trade for a player with 2 years left on their deal, and you take back a player with 1 year left on their deal. You're saving that team from potential tax implications going into next offseason. You're also giving them like the fluidity of having an expiring contract on their books that they can maybe flip for some value back. However, by making that move now, you will now have an expiring contract at next year's draft, which means that once again, you'll be able to roll over that expiring contract plus pick to move up, take 2 more years, and another pick back. This constant rolling over of 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%, it builds up to a massive yes. This is it. SP has taken the words out of my mouth. This is exactly it. You have time. You have to look at this as always time versus money. Okay. That's all it is. It's money versus time. So you have time and you have money. Other teams may not have time. They're impulsive. They're building around a star. They have to appease them. You're not. You just signed Scotty and you have Scotty for the next 6 years under contract. Now you have Emmanuel quickly for the next 5 years. You have so your core is secure, right? This is it. Cap space laundering. So you can basically you have money and time, and other teams that don't have money, like Phoenix, like LA Clippers, like the Golden State Warriors, these teams that are up against the cap, they don't have time. Make matters worse, they also don't have money. So you have both, they have neither. So you can extort them because as one of the few teams that has money and time. Think about the teams in this league that have money and time and ask yourself, who are they? Who are the teams that have actual money and time? Washington? Yep. I think Detroit's a little desperate to be relevant. So, not them. Does Portland have money? No, they have a lot of long-term contracts, right? Shirt and Forbes saying time is something we can't get back. I get what you're saying, but what the Raptors did last year is okay. You have like, I'm going to try to explain this in a broader way, and I hope that I can do a better job than I've done so far. You can develop with players like Bruce Brown who are not disruptive on your team. You can keep rolling over contracts. The OKC Thunder actually showed the perfect model. They brought in Al Horford for a year and then they let him go. They brought in Kemba Walker. Now, Kemba Walker and Al Horford, from anyone I've ever spoken to or anyone I've witnessed, giving an interview about these guys or even seeing these guys throughout the years, seem like really fantastic people. Chris Paul, he's a guy who came to OKC as a contract, right? As a bad contract, but he was also a major culture builder. So what you're doing is you're bringing in guys like mentors, right? Like expensive contracts that are just here to mentor. They're here to fill a role, like a Harrison Barnes. A Harrison Barnes is a great example. No one that I've ever talked to that covers the NBA has ever had one bad thing to say about Harrison Barnes. Harrison Barnes would be a perfect guy to bring on. Perfect. Give them flexibility. Take back Harrison Barnes. Get a 2026 first round pick. It's that simple. Maybe in exchange, you give up a second round pick. Okay, perfect. Now you have a first round pick and you took on one extra year of Harrison Barnes. Is that the end of the world? No, because Harrison Barnes is probably better for your team than Bruce Brown right now. You see what I mean? But again, molding the situation backwards, you have to look at the other team's desperation versus your flexibility. This is the idealized version of how this is supposed to work. You don't form emotional attachments to players like Chris Boucher or who's been here forever, or we love him, or we followed him since Oregon. Who cares? He's an asset. You can move on from him, right? The only thing that would make this really bad is if they sign Gary Trent Jr. to a crazy deal. That would completely sour my taste for the entire offseason. But right now, the Toronto Raptors are in a unique position to really trade for something huge. The other thing the Raptors can do is they can participate in blockbusters. They can be the team that facilitates a trade. So if, for instance, the Atlanta Hawks want to move off of Trae Young and they want to get back salaries from, I don't know, the San Antonio Spurs. Well, guess what? The Toronto Raptors have really good working relationships with both offices. Both front offices are very well known to Bobby Webster and Masai Ujiri. The Raptors can now be the facilitator in that trade. Take back Keldon Johnson, take back a pick for your trouble, and give the party that does not want the long-term contract, Bruce Brown. So again, this $23 million trade exception that is basically Bruce Brown, plus I believe they have a $10 million trade exception from the Pascal Siakam trade. So again, all this flexibility, all this stuff, If the Raptors don't use that flexibility, then it is wasted. If the Raptors just simply let Bruce Brown dangle, 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 and then expire, then it's wasted, right? Hell no to Markkinen. Ainge, well, yes, I've seen a lot of people mention this. Like, do the Raptors have what it takes for Lauri Markkinen? I don't think so. Not yet. Not yet at all. But again, if you get enough first round picks, if you take enough stabs at 2025 and 2026, is it possible? Again, not likely, but is it possible that a team makes a mistake? That you do to a team what San Antonio did to you? The abused becomes the abuser in this situation, right? What if Indiana really does fall apart? What if Tyrese Halliburton or Pascal Siakam fall off a cliff? One of them has an injury. Touch wood. Don't want that to happen. But I'm saying, what if they really have a bad 2026? You got a lottery pick. The Toronto Raptors get a lottery pick because they protected a top three, right? Again, not likely, but it's possible. Do this 3 more times. Take 3 more stabs at it. Take 3 more picks away. And maybe what happened for Houston this year happens for you. You end up with multiple lottery picks, right? Or 1 lottery pick in the third pick for the Houston Rockets, right? So again, I think that that's important. And unlike this year's draft, it will be a very consequential pick because the 3rd or 4th pick or the 5th pick in next year's draft, the Toronto Raptors really could find a franchise level talent in one of those top 5 picks. So the Raptors have to maximize all of their things towards that goal while still developing this current goal. So they have to do the thing that is really hard to do, which is lose while winning big. Develop winning habits while constructing for the future and losing probably a lot of games, right? Um, what will you get out of a Trent sign and trade? Isaac from Orlando. That would be awesome. Sheridan Forbes. I hear you, Rob. My only concern is front office looking for a reason to make procrastination an option with Scotty's career rather than to capitalize on opportunity to improve long term. I get what you're saying. And if Scotty Barnes right now, thank you so much, Oak Tree with a super sticker here. I really appreciate it. Um, thank you. Why am I not seeing the starred super stickers? Like, am I crazy? Like, what's going on here? Were there other super shots? I'm so sorry, guys, if I missed it. I'm not seeing them. Thanks a lot. I'm actually gonna go back manually because I don't want to miss one of these. I'm not seeing it on my screen. Oh, Cersei Cats. Would you take 8 and have compensated? That was shown. And okay, that should be it. Okay. Um, so yes, long term, I think the Raptors will make a move. I don't I don't think there's any reason to have extended Bruce Brown. Sorry, to extend to opt into the team option. I think there's going to be a trade. I think they're going to do it. They don't have any cap space going into free agency. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Michael Green said they don't have the ability to use their full mid level, but from what I understand, they do. So I don't know who's right on that or who's wrong. I would love to clarify that. If someone here is a capologist that can be like, hey, yes, they have their full mid level or they have this. Free agency starts tonight, Rob? No, it doesn't. Wait, does it? No, it starts tomorrow. It starts tomorrow at 6 p.m. So this will be a really fun long weekend for all the Canadian journalists and podcasters out there. We will have you covered, by the way. So at 5 o'clock, we'll go live tomorrow for a free agency show. We'll do it live. So all 480 of you in here will react to it live. We'll keep Shams and we'll see what happens. We'll see who goes where and we'll see if the Toronto Raptors broker something because again, certain deals are going to be really disastrous for teams that are right up against the apron, and the Toronto Raptors again are in a position to take back salary. Again, you don't have cap space, so some people might be thinking, "Hey, wouldn't it have been easier to just let Bruce Brown expire and maybe take back?" It doesn't entirely work that way. There are advantages to working as an above the cap team. So I completely understand the Raptors doing this. I really hope that they did it with something in mind. I know I myself have been very critical of the Bruce Brown, situations, somewhat mocking the idea of the flexibility and what they could get or think they can get and all that stuff. But there's a world. Anyways, FA, what's up, man?
I'm good. How you doing?
I am all right.
I was just on the back end listening to your content.
Hmm. What do you think the
Uh,
Raptors are going to do? Give me a trade that works.
I'm still thinking about the Andrew Wiggins trade or
Okay.
possibly a trade with Chicago
For
for the
Zach
for
Levine,
the no the what's this guy's name again?
Lonzo
New
Ball,
blank the no the former fourth pick that was from
Patrick Williams.
Patrick, yeah,
That would have to be a sign and trade.
sign and trade, for Bruce Brown.
Why would they do that?
But I don't know. I think you want talent, right? We're rebuilding, so we just
So
want
you think
good
a
play.
team that wants talent is going to trade the younger, better player for the older, worse player?
Who's the younger player there?
Patrick Williams is the younger, better player than Bruce Brown.
Yeah,
He's
but
younger and he's better.
for us to do that, we likely need to attach a draft pick, right?
We would need to attach a draft pick.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna do that though. But I think the Wiggins trade is the one that I really want. But Warriors, they have to send us a pick.
Okay, so here's the thing. I think that too many trades are made with one side's interests in
Mm-hmm.
mind and not the other side's interests, right? Now, obviously, if I had said, if I was a Houston fan, I was like, yo, we should send the 44th pick for AJ Griffin, I'm sure I would have been laughed out. And then suddenly it happens. So I understand sometimes, trades are completely stupid and we don't understand where they came from. I don't think any team is doing a sign and trade for Bruce Brown. No one is resurrecting a new bad contract to take on a bad contract like Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown is a overpaid player. It would be a completely different story if he was worth $23 million. He's not worth $23 million. I think you would agree with that, right?
I agree, but there's a reason why we kept him, right? I think they're likely gonna
Yeah,
trade
we
him.
kept him because I believe that we can use him plus
Mm-hmm.
something or just him alone to take back an undesirable contract, right? While giving another team a serviceable player, because it's the optics of it never um when you trade a player, typically your fan base expects something back.
Back. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like there's something weird about, like what do we get back for them? You know what I mean? There's almost this weird thing where you don't want to be the fan base where like we traded God, it's like and
He
draft
got.
picks are always like the sort of fruit,
Mm-hmm.
the sweetener on the deal.
Mm-hmm.
And so even the fan bases typically do understand some elements of cap construction and cap restrictions in the CBA. Most fan bases don't expect you to trade Harrison Barnes for a trade exception.
I
Do you know what I mean?
agree.
So
Uh-huh.
so they can understand intellectually why you would trade a guy who's making 22, 23, $22 million for someone for 2 years and think, oh, great, they must be aiming for somebody in the 2026 draft or they're tied up against the CBA or whatever. So I think that it's important to realize that the Raptors will almost definitely get back a package for Bruce Brown or Chris Boucher that is longer. You're not trading them. You're not going to get an expiring contract back. You're going to take back years, but you're going to be compensated for that years.
With
And it's
draft
the
picks, yeah.
same exactly. It's the same exact deal that we did with Sacramento, but bigger.
So which teams do you think have those kind of players that they're going to trade for? I think
Warriors.
Warriors. Speaking of Warriors, right? Paul George just declined his option, so
Yep.
he's a free agent. So that removes Warriors from the sign and trade with Paul George.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I completely hear that. Okay, let's see here. Player salaries, team salaries. Let's see which teams are the highest. You know, pe- Obviously the Clippers are number one,
What
but
of
but
Lakers?
but the Clippers are no longer have Paul George, so that changes a few things. Let's see here. Phoenix, in terms of
They don't have anything to give
2024,
back.
2025. right now, Phoenix is at the top, Minnesota, Phoenix, Minnesota, Boston, Milwaukee, Miami, right? Miami could be an option for Duncan Robinson.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do they have their
Milwaukee.
do they have their 26th pick?
Hmm. I don't know. Do they have the 2025 pick? I don't know. Milwaukee could be an option for, let's see, Chris Middleton, but that would be
Oh,
crazy. So if they
yeah.
decided to trade Chris Middleton, like that would be nuts. They're not trading Damian Lillard. They're not trading Giannis Antetokounmpo. They're not trading Bobby Portis.
Bruce
Pat
Lopez.
Connaughton is
What about Brook
potential.
Lopez?
Hmm?
Brook Lopez.
It's an option. I don't see why they do that. He's an expiring contract, though. That's exactly what I'm saying to you. If you trade Brook Lopez for, he's a $23 million expiring contract. So Brook Lopez, by the way, so the Raptors, like, again, Brook Lopez is probably not available though, right? He's a part of their core. He's a starter. Bruce Brown is very available. The other guy that I mentioned, okay, so Boston, can they get rid of anybody? I don't think they can. I think they're just gonna have to roll into this. They're not trading a championship core. They just like they're not trading any of these guys. Like I'm literally looking at all the players that are making money on their team. They're not trading any of these guys. They're not trading Drew Holiday. They're not trading Kristaps Porzingis. They're not trading Derek White. And Derek White is up for an extension. So at some point, they will have to trade somebody. They got to sign Jason Tatum to an extension this offseason as well. So I mean, at some point, this core just becomes too expensive, and maybe the Toronto Raptors are the team that picks up a Drew Holiday, or picks up a Kristaps Porzingis because it's just untenable, right?
No, but with
Again, their
Boston,
tax bill is going to get huge. That's what I'm trying to say.
yeah.
The Boston Celtics core is untenable. They cannot keep it together. They will be over a $200 million team. And don't tell me about CBA, TV rights, doesn't matter. There are serious consequences team building wise. So they won their championship. Could they look to move off of Kristaps Porzingis' contract? Could the Raptors look to bring on Kristaps Porzingis? Does Bruce Brown kind of fit into what they want to do, generally speaking? Yeah, sure. All of those things can be true. Dallas is another team that's really expensive right now. So let's see. Dallas, who could they possibly trade? Not PJ
But one,
Washington, not Daniel.
well, one of the challenges with teams that are in the tax A prom, right? That you cannot aggregate salaries.
Sure, that's fine. So we take
So
back
with Bruce
more.
Brown's
So we'll
23
take back
million,
more. We'll give them less. That's perfectly fine. That's how this deal has to work anyway. So because in any deal, three things are going to have to be true for every deal the Raptors do, right? The first thing that has to be true is you're going to take back more years. The second thing that's going to be true is you're going to take back more money. So those two things. And the third thing that's going to be true is you're going to be compensated for it somehow. That compensation could be a like a group of future seconds. If it's a really small compensation, if it's really small, it could be a first. But if you take back 3 years on an unproductive player and you give them an expiring, I think you should get maybe a first and multiple seconds. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like we have like done this on the other end. We've given up draft picks for this before, right? We've given up a draft pick to get off of Damari Carroll. We've given up draft picks to get off of Kem Birch, right? So now it's time for other teams to do for us what we've been doing for other teams. Denver is an expensive
Do you
team.
think Bruce Brown is gonna be there the beginning of the season, opening
No,
game?
no, I don't. I have a good feeling that they're comfortable keeping him if nothing materializes, but I don't think they pick up that option with such confidence, and he's not like talking the way he's talking on Twitter if he doesn't think that he's out. Like and he is a valuable player. Like that's what people don't realize. He's a very versatile defender. He allegedly, he's gonna play well, reasonably. He's not an idiot. Like he knows he's in a contract year. This might be his last big salary. So, he has a very big vested interest in playing really well this year. Whether he plays for us or he plays for somebody else, I would bet that he's going to be somewhere else. And I think Miami is perfect. So if right now Miami calls you Duncan Robinson plus a first for Bruce Brown, I think you run. I think you take it and go. It's fine. Miami could be really bad this year. You know what I mean? Like if they trade you a 2026 first, they could be terrible.
Yeah, with injuries and everything.
Yeah. LD saying the Knicks will need to shed salary and still have picks. That is another team that is about to get very, very expensive in light of the OG Anunoby salaries. Let's see here. New York is expensive. Memphis is expensive. Atlanta is expensive, right? All of these teams are pretty expensive right now. I mean, technically, Toronto's a little expensive because now you have Emmanuel Quickley's contract on the books. But
Scotty Barnes' contract doesn't kick in until next season.
correct. Scotty's contract will kick in
25, 26.
Yep. 25, 26. So let's see here. So Sasha Vezenkov. So the Raptors have, I completely forgot about Ochai Agbaji. Okay, so the Toronto Raptors have the following players as technically expirable contracts. I'm not going to call them expiring contracts. They're going to be expirable contracts. So Bruce Brown is an expiring contract. Chris Boucher is an expiring contract. Let me pull up my screen here so I can share this with you guys so you can visually see what I'm talking about here. This is potentially enough for a real blockbuster. Hold on. Share screen, Toronto Raptors salaries. I am using Hoops. I understand some people want to use Spot Track, but this is easier to see, visualize what it is. Okay, y'all see my screen?
Yeah.
You see my screen, right? So Emmanuel Quickley is a big payday, right? RJ Barrett, those are the two big contracts on your books right now, and then Bruce Brown. So Bruce Brown is one expiring contract. Then your second expiring contract is Chris Boucher, provided you don't sign Gary Trent Jr. Those two alone are $34 million combined. 33.8. Then you add in your expirable contracts, which is Sasha Vezenkov, right? That's an expirable contract. It's a double expiring because it has rollover expiring value. And then you also have Ochai Agbaji as an expiring contract, which I completely forgot about. And you have Davion Mitchell as an expiring contract, which I also forgot. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 expiring contracts or expirable contracts. Javon Freeman Liberty is an interesting, wrinkle in this. I think he's an NBA player. I like him, but we could lose him too. He is technically also an expiring. So the Raptors have nothing but expiring/expirable contracts. The only players that you are committed to beyond this year, and I mean de facto committed to, RJ Barrett, Scotty Barnes, Jakob Poeltl, and Grady Dick. That's it. Those are the 5 players. Everything else is oh, I forgot. Also, Jacoby Walter when he signs his deal, Jonathan Mogbo when he signs his deal. So those are the guys that are signed long term, right? Everyone else, that's gettable. So when we look at a team like Golden State, right, taking on the salary of say Andrew Wiggins, right, which is 26.2, 28.23. Like this is the year that you're trying to compete. This is the year you're trying to contend right here, right? This year is pretty much a wash. If he helps you, great. If he doesn't, it's fine, right? This year is your first load up year, right? So this year he becomes expiring. So you take this contract back. You do it largely to get Moses Moody. If you believe in Moses Moody, if you don't believe in Moses Moody, fight for Brandon Podziemski. You're not going to get him.
No, but they're not gonna. They cannot aggregate contract. They're second front team. So you have to take Wiggins only and draft picks.
You have to take one and
Yeah.
Can you do two trades? I think
No.
you can do 2 trades. You can do 2 different trades.
2 different trades. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So there will be a workaround of this. There has to be. Like I know I've heard this like you can't aggregate contracts, but let me try. And if Fanspo is wrong about this,
What else? Zach Lavine.
would I take on Zach LaVine?
Yeah.
Hold on one sec. Let's pull up the trade machine and figure it out. What would it look like? Okay. So deal number 1. Now here's something that I'm not understanding. And I read the CBA in order to understand this better. And from what I understand, it says you cannot aggregate contracts, but is there some sort of provision in terms of when you could aggregate contracts? Like you can't aggregate contracts and take back more? Or is it just you? Because I know there's one provision that you can't take back more, but this concept of you can't aggregate contracts doesn't entirely make sense.
I think it's the second apron team that cannot aggregate contracts, but somebody in the chat can correct us.
Yeah, it says second apron team before trade. Players cannot be aggregated in a trade. Okay, makes sense. So if we take on Andrew Wiggins in exchange for Bruce Brown, just straight up, they're saving 3 years, right? So they'd have to give up picks galore for this, right? So we take 2025 and 2027.
Yeah.
Okay. So no Moses Moody in this case. Take 2025, 2027. Now, try the trade. Yeah, it works. So they get you're taking Andrew Wiggins, like that's 3 million this year they save, and then 27 or 28 million and 30 million. Like you're taking massive money off their books for this, right? Like
Then
that's
that warrants two first round picks for sure.
well, it does because Andrew Wiggins is coming off a horrible year and they have a major luxury tax bill, but they would probably want to protect those picks. I
And
think you could also look
that's why they
at
kept him of the Olympics because of possible trade.
yeah, for sure. Another team that could, I mean, I think the Suns are just tapped out in terms of what they could offer, but you're talking about taking money off the Bulls books. I don't think the Bulls will trade you first round picks, largely because I don't think that they are stupid enough to do that. I don't think they think they're going to be bad enough to trade first round picks out. So, what could you really even trade them at this point? You could trade them like if you did a deal like this, like if
Zach
you took on
Lavine,
Zach Levine's deal in exchange
Chris,
for,
Chris
like, would you
Boucher.
do something like this? Jakob Pertl plus Bruce Brown for Zach Levine plus, oh, that's gone. Plus, I'm gonna do that. Plus 2026. Plus,
You're giving Jacopodo, so you're likely not gonna get much back.
well, yeah,
Jacopodo,
but I
so
mean,
yeah,
he's
but
a
this
much more reasonable contract than Zach Levine, and I think in this case, you do get your shooting guard. Like you get like a de facto scorer. If you're MLSC, you get someone that'll put some butts in seats, right? And if you're Toronto, you do get off a major like winning player, right?
then
Like Jakob Poeltl
if you're
contributes to
trying to
winning.
review, then you're gonna win next year.
I just don't think long term I see Jakob Poeltl on this roster. I'm not sure he's going to be here. When you're ready to win, he's going to be on another team. I'm like 90% sure.
Yeah.
Like we haven't. I mean, I know he's a pretty reserved and quiet dude. We just haven't seen a lot or heard a lot from him this offseason. So, I mean, yeah, like, does this make sense? Like, does this type of deal, in theory, make sense? I think it works, but does it make sense? Or is that you're taking one bad contract on for another bad contract? Like, is that 2026, or you take a very heavily protected 2026 pick, and then you also add in a 2028 first round pick? You take multiple picks just to get off of it. James Sorensen saying, not a good idea, Rob. That means you're committing to $160 million to a starting five in 25-26. They would be putting themselves in a bad situation.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's other contracts to be considered. There's definitely a John Collins implication here. You could look at that. You can look at Kristaps Porzingis. I don't know if they would move him or if they view him
Well,
to be too injured.
why would was Utah do the John Collins trade when they
Contract
threw?
fit. Do they like him long term? Not sure. He has 2 years, 18 million. You could
And
technically trade Chris.
they have a boatload of picks.
Sorry, he has 2 years, 26 million. They do have picks. That is the thing. You could also, I mean, is there anything on OKC that is dead weight? Okay, let's look at the Knicks. Do the Knicks have dead weight contracts? I'm just looking around the league at who has
Nick,
a dead weight contract.
Nick,
I
what's the name
mean,
of that? Robinson, right? The big man that they're trying to trade.
another team that I think could be interesting in this would be Portland, which is a team that's going absolutely nowhere. But I think the problem with Portland is they're not going to trade you picks unless they have somebody else's. Let me see, whose picks do they have? They have,
Chicago, right? Or was that conveyed?
I believe that conveyed. So they have largely their own picks. Yeah. But I wonder if there's okay, but Portland has a ton of young players, man. They have talent. They have like real talent, and they're a very expensive team. But they are currently $4.2 million under the tax. But the Raptors currently, I believe, are way under the tax.
I think Portland has too many players too, right? They need to get rid of some.
Sure. So Jeremy Grant
They're not
fits
gonna trade him.
exactly what we do. He's overpaid, dude. He's overpaid. He's not on their timeline. He's 30 years old. Would we trade for Jeremy Grant? I mean, Malcolm Brogdon's not even on their team anymore, so I don't understand why this deal is there unless it hasn't gone through yet. I think they're not going to trade Anthony Simons. I don't understand why they would trade Rob Williams. They could trade Matisse Thybulle.
They're
So
trying
if
to
you look,
trade Rob Williams.
why? He's injured.
Yeah.
So I mean, like if you want to help a team like this clean their books, it's really not that complicated. Give us Jeremy Grant. They can aggregate, right? They can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so give us that. And
Delano Panting.
don't do that.
bring,
Um
bring him home.
they would be crazy to do this, but would they give us Shaden Sharp?
Maybe Matisse Thybulle. Why would you do that?
Well, yes, that's exactly it, right? You know, if you're a team like this, right? You're trying to clear your books, right? You're trying to clear out some long-term contracts because I think Jeremy Grant, the deal was signed when Damian Lillard was still on the roster, right? And there might have been a little bit of buyer's remorse after Damian Lillard. They said all the right things. They came out and they said, no, we would have signed Jeremy regardless of the Dame situation. But Damian Lillard was not supposed to be traded until he demanded a trade. And as I recall correctly, Jeremy Grant's contract was signed after Dame requested a deal. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, what's after here?
Okay. Wait, did Jeremy Grant
They,
sign before Dame requested a trade?
no, they traded Dame before the season started, just before the season started.
But Jeremy Grant was extended last offseason.
It was extended, yeah, yeah, I agree. It was extended before the trade, way long before the trade.
Okay, so Jeremy Grant's extension kicked in on one timeline, and now they're on another timeline. My point being, 4 years. It was 5 years last year, so it's just crazy. You know the value on that deal. So that is like a long-term contract. But for the Toronto Raptors, you could look at it and say this is a player that actually fits what we do. Jeremy
And
Grant
and
fits
and even if you don't want him, there are a lot of teams that want him. I know the Lakers. You can do 3-team trades, right? And get multiple
exactly.
picks and get multiple picks back.
That's exactly it. So it's about leveraging your flexibility against someone else's desperation. Jeremy Grant is a movable highliner foods. Not a single thing you have said has ever happened. Jonathan Mogbo, Scotty Barnes, Jakob Poeltl trade going really bad. Yeah, I would say a lot of things I've said have come true. Um,
Mobo was a perfect one, right? Literally the day of the draft.
yeah.
Like
Um,
serious. Come on, Highlander.
yeah, highliner, you're damn wrong. Um, damn, I'm trying to count my wins here, and I'm like struggling here.
Even the Fred VanVleet stuff.
Fred VanVleet to Houston. Yes, Fred VanVleet to Houston. Go check Instagram, dummy. I literally was like, I think I released a reel. Okay, this is actually really funny. Hold on, I want to find this. I don't appreciate that charge. That's dumb. Where are we at here? This was Fred VanVleet to Houston. Where's that reel? This was hours before, by the way. I actually went back on a live once and I was looking, and I think this was 4 months before Fred VanVleet signed with Houston. And I said, "Who would sign you, Fred?" Okay, here, look at this. Watch the screen. Never? Really? You sure? Anyways, okay. There's a lot of examples. That's one of them. Point being, I think that the Toronto Raptors are in this really beautiful position to be able to leverage some of their flexibility into hopefully another team's desperation, and I think that they'll be able to get compensated picks for it for sure.
I think that's the brilliant thing with this apron stuff. It helps a lot. It helps those teams that have cap space
Absolutely.
to get assets.
Cersei Cat saying you're shooting around 80%, Rob. I promise you I'm not shooting 80%. I think I'm shooting close to like 50%, but nah. I don't particularly like the comment of "you've never been right." That is silly. I have gone out on a limb heavy, 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 right? Um, yeah. Karen Halls, by the way, big thank you to you for the panels. I shouted you out in the beginning of the show. Sixers declined Jeff Doughton's team option. Bummer, but
I think they want to go for Paul George. They can still bring him back.
pardon?
They want to go for Paul George, so that gives them more cap space.
This will be interesting. Paul George coming to the East would be, it doesn't really make a difference. I don't anticipate the Toronto Raptors. I'm thinking of this more from the perspective of
Long
if the
term.
Atlanta Hawks decide to really rebuild here, right? Then they are in the same boat as the Toronto Raptors. In a sense, they have a lot of young players: Jalen Johnson, Zachary Ricochet, Dyson Daniels. These are all young players. So this team, the Toronto Raptors, are like in a similar bucket, but I think we're further ahead, right? So if the
Mhm.
Philadelphia 76ers get Paul George, okay, the 3 losses we would have had on the year to Sixers become 4 losses. Like it doesn't make the hugest difference. What makes the difference to me is how bad the bottom of the East is, right? Because I do want the Raptors to be in the play next year. I do want the Raptors to compete for something, to have, attainable goals and to be able to make progress that way. It would be good.
I'm okay with us tanking, honestly.
Yeah. MKLP82 saying,
I'm done
"I'm
with.
down to take Onyeka. I would love him." Justin Stewart, super chat. Thank you. Do the Raptors have cap space to sign Bol or Mo Bamba size? Yes, they do. They also have potentially the cap. It's not like they can. Do they have the cap space or do they have the exception to sign? They have the exception to sign. They also have the exception to tender an offer for Jalen Smith or James Wiseman. Please God, let that not happen. Um,
Why don't you like James Wiseman? Is it because of the work ethic?
I don't know him, so I can't comment on his work ethic. I can, however, comment on his basketball IQ,
Okay.
his fluidity, his productivity. It's been really bad. Kevin Rayo, thank you so much for the super chat, man. I appreciate it. I'm going through some little technical difficulties here. I'm not able to scan super chats automatically, so I had to go up to find this one. But thank you so much. Anyways, Effie, any final words, man?
No, let's see what happens tomorrow. I'll try and join tomorrow at 5 o'clock. You said, right?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I anticipate it will be very interesting to see what the Raptors do. And again, like I think their draft picks signaled their direction, right?
I think
Very much.
they're likely going to make a trade tonight for the tr- uh, trade before the free agency starts. That's my prediction.
I think they'll push it because they're very likely that if they've the team option on Bruce Brown, they said, I don't know if they're telling the truth or they're lying because it's all political, but they said they have multiple offers. They've had multiple calls about Bruce Brown. So let's see. Obviously, some team is going to say, okay, well, we'll give you this other player on a long-term deal, or maybe give you. I mean, I think another option here that maybe we haven't considered is taking on another expiring plus assets for a player that's worse than Bruce Brown. I think we need to maybe scan and maybe, ahead of tomorrow's free agency show, maybe I'll pull together 20 players that I think fit the Raptors better than they fit their current team that could fit into a Bruce Brown package. I think like might be helpful to be like, hey, 10 Bruce Brown trades that could make sense. I think that'll make some sense. Because I mean, honestly, like I have mocked Sasha Vezenkov quite a few times to the Toronto Raptors. I mean, usually it's with Kevin Herter or Harrison Barnes or something like that, but it's interesting that it does happen from time to time. Yeah. Okay.
Have you talked to your guy from Sacramento, Carl
I
Bell?
have. I have. Yeah.
Any insights?
Um, Apparently Sasha Vezenkov was not, and this is not just coming from him, just not overly thrilled with the situation over in Sacramento. And I am very curious to see if this buyout thing is real. If it is real, obviously not the worst thing or the greatest thing for the Raptors. Is kind of a non-issue because he will get a ton of money from the European club, and if he really wants to leave, we don't have to offer him a ton on the buyout because we seem happy to keep him, right? So again, Michael Grange, he tweeted out a rebuttal to that
Hmm.
whole Sasha Vezenkov news, but I think that is perfectly fine. Can we get a decent shooter for Brown? Doesn't matter who. Yeah, so you can get Duncan Robinson.
How much does
Yeah,
Duncan Robinson make?
19 million for 2 years.
Okay,
19
that
or
works.
20 for 2 years. It works perfectly. So you would be
No,
able to absorb him.
can they take more salary? I don't think they can take more, right? Based on the April.
I don't know.
They can
Um,
send out more, but they can take out more, I think.
yeah, there are severe restrictions. Let me see here. I believe
Just do that one quickly. Let's see. Then I'll get out.
um hold on.
And I don't want to trade with Miami, to be honest with you. Not with Pat
Why?
Riley. Pat Riley's not going to give you anything back.
But he gave us Precious Achua and he is amazing.
Okay, I'll pass on that. You heard that Mogbo is in your Ashua, right?
That was hilarious. He's so awesome. Like
I really like him. I really like him.
I think all of Toronto fell in love with Jonathan
I
Mogbo
think all the
right
picks,
away.
all the players that they got, right? They have yeah. I really like them. All of them in short. Like they always talk about their faith and everything. They're
Yeah.
like the quickly kind of players that you mentioned.
Yeah. He cannot, they're a second apron team, so they cannot aggregate in a trade. So it would have to be they
Chris
can,
Boucher. Can we add? What if you do Chris Boucher and somebody for?
so if you did Duncan Robinson for, yeah, I mean, honestly, like even doing the trade machine, we're finding how incredibly inconvenient this is, right? You can't take back
Mhm.
more salary, you can't aggregate players. That's such a massive team restriction. So let's see here. So if you were to trade, for instance, if you were to trade Sasha Vezenkov,
Are you
so
sharing your screen?
no, no, I'm not sharing my screen.
Okay,
Sorry, I should share my screen.
so that the community can see.
Yeah, so if you were to trade Chris Boucher for Duncan Robinson and you were to tack on, well, you can't take on Bruce Brown. And this hasn't updated to include our new guys, but let's just assume hypothetically that you were just to add Jordan Nwara. Sorry, not Jordan Nwara, Ochai Abaji. That's what? 15. Okay. That's 15 for 19. I believe this will work, or it will be close to working.
And we have we have trade exceptions too that you can add.
Yeah. So obviously, I'm trying to get the framework
Hmm.
of this right, and then now we could add. Let's see here. So if they were to add picks to this, so we would want. They don't have a 2020. Oh shit! They gave all of them up. They don't have picks. So the earliest they would be able to give up is 2028. Or let
What
me
of
see. Can they trade
2026?
2026?
Yeah.
I think maybe they are restricted from trading that.
They should be able now. This draft has already passed, so yeah.
Let's see. No, consecutive draft years 2025 and 2026 would be missing a first round pick. The pick for 2025 may be traded away on draft day after the team officially makes their selection. So you cannot trade. You cannot make this. I don't know why Fanspo gives you the success when there are issues here, right?
Hmm.
Um, it also says here that Ochai Abaji currently has a team option for the Raptors this season. The Raptors may decide to decline their option, which would
So you
make
have to
him an
pick it first.
unrestricted free agent. I don't think this is true. I think they already picked up his thing because according to Spot Track, their box for his team option is already checked. It was, I believe, picked up by Utah. So this is wrong. I think this is wrong. I could be wrong. But yes, there are two sites that are showing something else here. Um, Paradise Lost saying Bruce Brown was dancing in his Instagram. Yeah, I got that. Okay. Anyways,
All right.
I'll talk to you
Yeah.
later, man. See ya.
All
Bye.
right. Take care. Bye.
Bye. Okay. Before we head over to Jonathan Mogbo and Jacoby Walter interviews, I do want to explain why I didn't do a live for what was it, like 24 hours ish. So yesterday I attended my first condo AGM. Our building has been going through something really crazy. It's somewhat scandalous. It's crazy. We had a whole bunch of renovations done in our building. They've taken a very, very long time. There's a pretty weird company behind all of this. I think the renovations look at places terrible. So, as anyone who's ever done construction knows, sometimes contractors can be kind of shady. Are they in cahoots and whatever? So there's this entire group in our building that is trying to vote out the existing condo board. And so I attended my first annual general meeting in my life. I've lived here for 13 years. I've never cared. 14 years, 15 years. I've lived here for 15 years and I've never cared. And this is the first time. I sat there for 5 hours yesterday as all this stuff was happening in the NBA. But I was just there. I wanted to vote. I had like real fears because, they're coming around telling people that, hey, this company has installed your doors incorrectly. The building is filthy. Some people's blaming someone else, someone's blaming somebody else. Someone is saying, man, wait till this company leaves and this property manager, they're corrupt, they're in cahoots together. I'm like, "Bro, what is happening? Like, I've never lived in such a dysfunctional place before. Like, what is going on here?" And then, accusations being leveled. This side didn't do this. This side didn't do that. We have a swimming pool, in our building that hasn't been open for 4 years since COVID. They closed it down during 2020. They haven't opened it in 4 years. I feel like I am living in a really scary place where everyone hates everybody. Everyone's pointing fingers at each other. Everyone's saying, well, the property manager, he says, well, the cleaning staff didn't do their job. The cleaning staff says they didn't give us the materials. The board says it was the previous board's fault. The previous board says it's the previous board's fault. The property manager says it's the contractor's fault. The contractors say it's the board's fault. And so you just talk to all these people. And yesterday, something really beautiful happened. I decided to talk to everybody myself. I literally engaged with everybody. I went to the side that I agreed with a lot and I talked to them. And I talked to the side that I didn't agree with. And I sat there and I talked to them for an hour and a half. I devoted so much time yesterday to this that my girlfriend was just looking at me like, she's like, "Are you looking for something to save? Are you Denzel from The Equalizer? What are you doing?" And I was just like, "Bro, this is serious. You don't understand. If they do this wrong, if all the renovations are wrong and stuff, the implications legally for a condo owner here would be so tremendous. You could be liable for someone's unit burning down. You could be liable for someone slipping and falling on bad tiling. Like it's crazy the legal responsibility, and everyone just bats an eye. Everyone's like, I don't care. This crazy thing is happening in our building, and yesterday we have 270 units in our building and only 150 people even showed up to the AGM. Now I'm not going to sit here and judge people who didn't show up to an AGM when I myself missed literally the last 12. There's something really crazy happening here. And so today, I was thinking about something. Karen, Karen Hall over here, she sent me this tweet of Jamal Shed and how I think all of you have seen it, right? Cersei Cats, hold back your condo fees until pool O's open. Yeah, some people decide to do that, but I wouldn't because they put a lien on your property if you don't pay your condo fees, and then you have to pay a fee to remove the lien. It's not like it's not great to get into litigation with your own condo board, but I understand what you're saying. Anyways, I am going to write to this. And so I decided to just get involved. I decided to get involved in a big way, right? Paradise Lost thing. Where is it? Downtown? No, it's not downtown. But um, I'm gonna get involved in a really big way. I'm gonna chase these people down. I'm gonna chase these contractors down, and I'm gonna make sure that they do their right job. But in the meanwhile, I do realize that a lot of our building is sort of suffering because a lot of these materials cannot be cleaned. The tiles they've installed are slip-free tiles. Um, they're nice, but our cleaners don't know how to clean them. Apparently, they don't have the materials. So today, listening to all these people last night, trying to get everyone's side, still feeling a little bit terrified about who's lying and who's not, I decided to do something that I don't think anyone in this building has ever done in the 45 years that this building has been in existence. I decided to clean it. So I just went with this product that I know, like from years of using it, that it would clean anything. It's safe for tiles. It's pretty natural, and I just started spraying it on the tiles, and I cleaned our floor. And so, while I was doing that, I noticed that 7 people walked past me, and they kind of were like shocked that I was doing this. And they were asking me like, "What are you doing? Like, you live here. Why are you cleaning the floor? Like, why are you on your hands and knees scrubbing, the grout? Shouldn't the contractors have done that?" And I was like, "But they didn't." And they're like, "Shouldn't the cleaners do that?" And I'm like, "But they didn't." And then they just complained about the they just complained. They complained about the contractors, they complained about the board, and they complained about the property manager and how they hadn't done this and how they hadn't done that, and then they went back to their merry little lives. And it was weird because my girlfriend and I were supposed to clean today. We were supposed to clean our house, and I decided to go and clean our building instead. And when I came back, she was a little bit upset with me. She was a little bit peeved, and she's like, "Bro, like we agreed to clean the house today. We cleaned our washroom, our kitchen. Things have been kind of like falling apart over the last week and a half because we skipped last week to clean." And I was just like, this feels very important. Like, um, exactly. So the long and short of this is that I think that this is why we sometimes see a news report of a person dying on the street and 350 people walk past them. I think this is why, sometimes when you live in government housing, as I did when I was younger, that government housing falls apart because everybody blames somebody else. I think it's important to realize that the people who were trying to kick this board out spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours over the last month and a half petitioning, canvassing why this board was terrible. I think it's important to realize that this board has spent hours and hours and hours explaining why they're not terrible. I think all of this time, right? I think all of this time, right, was used ultimately in haste, and a lot of people just blaming other people, and I feel all that time could have been used to just clean the building. Um, when I noticed that the people who were fighting against each other, they were like trying to fight for who was right and who was wrong. And I kept hearing them and I kept trying to see the good in both sides. I mean, I understand that someone might be lying in my face, but I'm trying to see like the positives. And I'm noticing that all of these people have these very unique skills and they're so concerned with who's right and who's wrong that they don't even want to teach each other. So you got this person with all this construction experience and they're like, I would have seen this if I was on the board. And it's like, but they're not getting on the board. And when they get on the board, they're just pointing to other people, but you're so stupid you didn't see this. It's like, bro, they don't have the construction experience you do, but you don't have the property management experience they do. That's how this is supposed to work. That's how community is supposed to work. So I hope that to all the people who came into this for a basketball live and basketball take, I hope my 5 minute departure did not bother you too much as I tried to explain that civic duty is an important thing. It's something that I feel the Toronto Raptors lacked because you see, When Fred VanVleet hijacks an offense and you let him as his teammate because you think that it's the coach's responsibility to talk to him about it, that's how you get dysfunction. When the coach lets a player hijack the offense because the coach believes that it is the responsibility of the other players to stop him, that's how you get dysfunction, right? Functional organizations are about ownership and authorship. Functional organizations have self-starters and people who take pride in their locker room. I think the Toronto Raptors brought in a whole bunch of people this offseason that have shown through past anecdotal experience, through interviews, that they take pride in building winning cultures. Now, I have sometimes mocked the Toronto Raptors for being too obsessed with winners. Like Jamal Shed is one of the winningest players, right? Baylor is a winning program. Kansas is a winning program. USC is not a winning program. Did they hold how much Isaiah Collier lost against him, right? Scotty Barnes, Masai Ujiri said he mentioned winning 46 times in his pre-draft interview. That matters to Scotty. I mean, he won a lot in high school in AAU. So, I mean, these things matter to this team. And so they're so Bruce Brown, he's an NBA champion. They keep saying this. Every time Bobby Webster talks about Bruce Brown, he's an NBA champion. So they just want to put together these people who win. And maybe there is some weird philosophy to that because winning is a habit, winning is a standard. And people who've won understand what winning culture looks like. Danny Green was a winner. Kawhi Leonard was a winner. You brought winners into this organization. Marc Gasol was a winner. You kept plucking out. So in a weird way, as much as this feels like a departure or a shift in terms of what the Raptors are doing, this is exactly the way they've operated. This is exactly the way they've operated. This is the way they've always operated. They've imported winning at every single step. Whenever they can, they do that. So, and ironically, isn't this kind of what the Houston Rockets did last offseason when they signed Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks to those crazy ass deals? Because Fred, according to them, was a person who could instill winning. Ime Udoka was a person who could instill winning. If you want if you want to stop the losing, at some point you need to change the personnel and change their standards. So, are you guys really having a conversation? We damn sure screwed if it's Scotty's team. Well, whose team do you want it to be? Let me guess. You want it to be RJ Barrett's team? See, dysfunctional people, right? You want it to be RJ Barrett's team because you need conflict, I guess. This is so clearly Scotty Barnes' team. Like it's so evidently Scotty Barnes' team. And you know what's ironic? I've been complaining for about 2 years that they keep trading all of Scotty's teammates away, like his favorite teammates. They traded away OG, they traded away Sam Decker, they traded away Goran Dragic, they traded away Precious Achua, they traded away all his favorite guys. They cut Christian Koloko due to health concerns. These are all of Scotty's favorite teammates. Ish Wainwright, like literally any person he was close to. Armani Brooks was another guy, Yuta Watanabe, Delano Banton, like anyone he was close to, he was just gone, gone, gone. It seems weird. It seems interesting to me that they're going the complete opposite way. Alex, Rob, I'm saying RJ will lead the team in scoring next year. Not likely, but hopefully that would mean he's great. Like, I mean, because I expect Scotty to be like a 22 to 23, 24 point per game guy. I'm sure Scotty wouldn't get in the way of that. Like, that's the cool thing about Scotty Barnes. That's the cool thing about building around a player like Scotty Barnes is he's still going to be your best player, but he doesn't have to be your leading scorer. I'm pretty sure he's going to be the leading scorer, though, just so we're clear on my take on that one. RJ knows it's Scotty's team. Yep. RJ will get buckets. Scotty going to rack up the assists. Yes, this is not NBA 2K. Anyways, let us go to one of my favorite pre-draft interviews or post-draft interviews ever, Jonathan Mogbo?
Draft party. I guess we all saw Scotty there. How did that all happen?
It was, just bringing the family, friends. I told Scott about it before the draft happened, and I was like, because I didn't know his schedule, so I said, if you can come out. He said, I'll be there, no doubt. So, it was just good to have him. And, when my name got called, looked around, and I think I saw him crying. So, yeah, it was tears of joy. I didn't shed a tear, I couldn't. I had to be the stronger one, but it was good. It was just a good scene, good scene, embracing the moment. Just excited to get to work. Be in the same arena as him. Just going to compete in that. It's time to compete against him. So it'll be fun. Just embracing the moment. It was a great feeling.
I know the Raptors had reached out to you and visited with you during your college season. When you were still on the board at 31, did you have any indication that you were going to be their pick?
There's been talks about it. I try not to really stay into social media, but there's been talks. And then I remember there was a clip that went viral. I think I was at Scott's house and he was live streaming, and he was saying, "Welcome to the chat, future Toronto Raptor," and it was just speaking into existence, and it happened. So it's just crazy how everything turned out. But I didn't know.
Okay, first of all, kind of funny because I always felt that I spoke Scotty to Toronto into existence. I'd literally been talking about him coming to Toronto for a while. I mocked him like so many times. I feel the same way about DeMar DeRozan. I kept mocking. I kept doing NBA 2K. So I always felt that. I know it's not real or whatever, but maybe if you believe in that kind of stuff, I always felt like I willed DeMar DeRozan to Toronto by drafting him in NBA 2K for years to Toronto over and over. So yeah, I think Scotty Barnes did that for Jonathan Mogbo. Also, kind of funny. I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, yo, what was like who did more to get his guy there? Did Scotty do more to get Jonathan to Toronto, or did LeBron do more to get Bronny to Lakers? Interesting.
But I had a feeling. So, did great in my workout, did what I had to show. So, just that was the most important thing, coming in here, being myself, showing the best, Jonathan Mogbo. So, it all turned out great.
How far does your friendship with Scotty go? When and how did you meet him? When did you start playing with him?
It goes way back to fourth grade. I think I was in fourth grade. He was in third grade. So first time I met him, we went to his house. We was late for an AAU game.
Yeah, so I don't know if this is public or whatever, but everyone close to Scotty calls him Scott. Literally every single person. I can't think of one person who's ever called him Scotty. It's both, actually. But I guess if you knew him in grade 3 or 4, you would have called him Scott.
And I think that was
his name is Scott Wayne Barnes Jr. So they call him Scotty. Scotty's a nickname. Scott is his name. That's his legal name. His name is Scott. So I guess like in grade 3, grade 4, he was Scott. I don't know when he became Scotty. When did Scotty Barnes become Scotty? It was like more of a grade 9, 10 thing.
His first game playing with us, and I remember him coming out the house. He had the Kobe jersey on, gray. He had gray Kobe 6s on, and just seeing him. He came in the car, acting like he was tired, and we was like waiting on you. So just having that first interaction with him, and then from then we've been best friends since then. So high school, I went, like I said, I've been in high school at 5'9", 5'10", and I think the first day when he was there, we took a picture of school, and he was about 6'6", and we just kind of posted up together. And I remember seeing him in the hallway, and we just got excited to see each other. It's been a long time, so just having that friendship, along the road, was great.
Jonathan, you had your own growth spurt, going from 5'9" to 6'8". I'm wondering how that helped you evolve yourself throughout college. Like, what kind of areas of the game did you learn through that time?
Yes, sir. I feel like my game just kind of expanded. I was a guard growing up my whole life, so growing into the 6'8", 6'6" body, there was more stuff for me to do on the court, because old me, you can ask anybody to just shoot threes in the corner and play defense. So it was just a great change.
I mentioned this also when he was drafted, that he's a better shooter than people give him credit for, and I think he's been proving it through the pre-draft cycle. It's really wild to me how his rise up draft boards actually paralleled Scotty's rise up draft boards. They both showed that they were way better shooters coming in than people thought they were. So I think that is pretty cool. And I do think that he's going to become a pretty good standstill shooter. There have been some allusions to the idea of confidence, how he may have broken his confidence by not shooting threes for a while because he was kind of forced away from shooting threes for a while. It's kind of like a weird like body dysmorphia sort of thing when you're like really thin and you're told you're fat, like, you know what I mean? So he was a guy who shot threes in the corner. Like he keeps alluding to that. And it's like, yeah, we just need to refine that again, you know? And I think Bobby Webster even talked about it in the post draft interview where he just said, you know, this should be a really interesting process with him. And Tony saying if he's half as good as basketball as he's interviews going to be an all-star. I don't know if Jonathan Mogbo is going to be an all-star, but what I'm willing to say is he is like, I think he's going to be like an 8 to 10 year guy, minimum. That like he's going to stick around in the NBA because people like being around this guy. You listen to old coaches, teammates talk about him, and honestly, did Scotty just recruit Jonathan Mogbo to Toronto? Like, you know what I mean? This is like the first recruiting job. I know we spent a pick on him. It's not a free agency thing, but is this it? Bobby Webster kind of brushed this aside. He was just like, no. We really like the player. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, please. I get it. Yes. But part of this is definitely on an endorsement from your star player. You'd be completely stupid to not see that this is at least part of the equation. Now, obviously, you're not going to hang this on Scotty if Kyle Filipowski turns into an all-star and you'd be like, oh, you think Jonathan Mogbo as a favorite of Scotty. He's definitely in the conversation, but it tilts the balance because he's close to your star player. I just think that, you know, it shows Scotty's judgment as well. It shows particularly, again, if you've seen the people who are close to Scotty, if you've seen any of his friends or if you've seen, you know, his trainer, you see these people and they're just like, they're really solid people. It's not like this one guy who's so great and then everyone around him is like a piece of shit. You know what I mean? Like everyone around him is like really solid. So I think this speaks really well. And having Scotty Barnes' stamp of approval that you've been that close with him since grade 4. I mean, Scotty's been shouting out Jonathan for 2.5 to 3 years, 3 years on Instagram. He's been posting his stuff. Like if you follow Scotty on Instagram, you've seen a lot of Jonathan Mogbo stuff. So I think it's a really good sign that, you know, a really good person is vouching for another really good person personally. And I think the basketball part is really good too. I watched a lot of tape of him yesterday, just as I was trying to decompress between all this condo board shit. And yeah, like I remain very high on Jonathan.
Knowing my body, understanding my body, seeing that growth that I had in me. So freshman year of junior college.
By the way, this comparison, he reminds me of Jarris Walker kid Indiana took last year. I understand it's a very physically rooted comparison. Jarris Walker is a much better shooter at this point, but if they can get his shooting up, yes, because physically he has a lot of the same advantages that Jarris Walker does in that he is kind of stout. He has like this really long wingspan. He has a bit of burst and ball handling ability. Yes. If Jonathan Mogbo was the player he is today, and if he had shot threes in college, and he was I'm trying to present like a version of Jonathan Mogbo that would have been like a first overall pick. If he was 19, like I'm gonna do two. I'm gonna do two ifs. If he was 19, this good, and he was shooting threes in college, he would have been in consideration for the first overall pick. I can tell you that because overall, he does crazy lot of things good on the basketball court. The offensive rebound and the screen setting has been talked about to death, but the playmaking, if you added shooting at his size and athleticism to that, geez, you really are talking about in this draft, especially. Yeah, like if Anthony Bennett goes number 1 in the 2013 draft, he's a better player than Anthony Bennett right now. Like he's a better player right now than Anthony Bennett's ever been, ever. So yeah, I mean draft picks are so weird. You know what I mean? They're so wild. Is Trace Jackson Davis better than a lot of players who've been picked 3rd, 4th overall? Yeah, he is. You know, so I think upside's great. I think there's a lot of upside juice with this guy, though. I think his development has been really weird and really mishandled. I think he's going to get a lot better too.
I played small ball big, so just trying to adjust it, seeing how I can impact the game right away. and I did a great job of my quickness and, just knowing the game and knowing how bigs operate, learning that. And I feel like, it definitely helped me along the way. So coming into SF, I feel like I had all of it combined together now. So, just embracing that, embracing my body, and keeping my mindset the same. So that was the most important thing.
How many times have you and Scotty played one-on-one?
See, I knew this question would get asked. Probably twice, to be honest. We played his rookie year, and then we played, I think, after his second year, if I'm not mistaken. But I think we only played twice. One time serious.
What were the results?
I'm gonna let him answer that. Because we're gonna have two different answers. So you know how that goes. So I'm gonna let him answer that.
Your journey has been so unique. The late growth spurt, going to the schools you went to. When did you start to think that, making it, if not to Toronto, somewhere in the NBA or the next step was possible? Was there a point in time where you're like, actually, this might happen, this could happen?
Mm-hmm. I'll probably say my sophomore year, junior college. It sounds crazy hearing that where you're at right there, but I feel like my freshman year, it was COVID year, so there was a lot of adversity. Only played like 26 games, 20 games, so trying to get that exposure back. I think my junior college coach, Coach Jackson, Jeremy Jackson, he just let me play. The system was great over there. He was a great coach, great teammate, great environment. I feel like, when I have that environment with me, I do great things. And I, kind of started to put my name on the map a little bit over there. So I feel like, I was like, I can finally do this. I just needed that chance. And then probably the start of my, the start of my last year at University of San Francisco. When I finally earned that respect from my coaches, because, I had to prove a lot coming from Missouri State. Missouri State was, short screen, dunker spot, screen and roll. So, there was more to my game that people didn't see. So when I got the chance to, throw passes, backdoor passes, bring the ball up in transition, just doing that, kind of opened my eyes a little bit. And I was like, you know what, if I can get in this system, I can do great things. And, now I'm here today. So I'm blessed.
Are there any other players around the league that you've kind of looked up to over the years or that you've trained with that you kind of learned about the NBA process from?
I mean, I've been around a lot of guys. I don't really say I'd look up to anybody specifically or like take pieces from like one person, specific person. But I take like different stuff from all different guys. For example, like Naz Reid, his size, his mismatches, just reading the game, getting in transition, making mismatches, like I said. And Scotty with his passing, his IQ, and his hunger for the game. PJ Washington a little bit, great role player, knowing what he does well in his role. So just the small stuff, nothing like, I'm not going to say Kyrie or anything like that, but, just the small stuff, what guys can't teach. So it's great.
What's your introduction been like to the city of Toronto and the Raptors organization so far?
I mean, I got love since day one. When I first came with Scott, I came to visit him his rookie year. So funny story, we went to ride the scooters around town, and we went into a pharmacy to get some snacks, or a little snack store. And so we were walking
Shoppers.
through the aisle, and someone was like, "Is this Precious and Scotty?" I'm like, "What is it? Is it my hair?" But it was obviously my hair because I heard Precious likes to wear his hair in a ponytail, so I always wear my hair in a ponytail. So it was a funny interaction, but I didn't know because that was the first time that happened, so I didn't know if I should take the picture. And he was like, "Bro, take the picture." So I'm like, "All right." And he tried to step out the picture. I was like, "No, you got to come in the picture." So we took the picture, and then times when I come back and stuff, it always happens at least one time. And then it's been great. And then it finally happened. I met Precious at dinner, and then they told him the story, and he was like, he does kind of look like me. So it was just funny. But it's been great, since I've been here. Great fans, great city, so can't complain.
There's a photo of you on the court from March of last year. What do you remember about the fan base in that game, but also your impressions in the organization from that game?
It was crazy. The funny part is Scott was forcing me to take that picture. So I just went to the back, seeing the players and everything. It was a great experience. I came to the game, and I think we were there maybe 30 minutes, an hour early, and the arena was packed. So I'm like, man, this is crazy. I got to get here earlier, get some a little better seats, you know what I'm saying? But it was great. The environment was great. The atmosphere was great. I feel like the culture is very diverse here, so, people get along well. So after the game, just showing love and everybody, and it was great going on the court, taking pictures. They was trying to make fun of me, but all I did was just smile on the court, and I didn't even know that picture came out. So it was great. Can't complain, and it was happy to have that feeling. And then he was like, maybe one day you'll be here. So, and I'm right here. So it's crazy.
Is there an area of your game that you think you can show more of or want to show more of or develop since college?
Developing most definitely my shooting. I feel like that's the talk around Jonathan Mogbo and his pre-draft stuff. So I'm not trying to go out there and shoot 33s, but I'm gonna do my role well, and play my hardest, be myself. That's the most important thing. Try not to change who I am. And it comes down, hit an open three. I'm gonna showcase that. So just believing in that. It all comes down to repetition, confidence. So I feel like I have a great process with that. And it's gonna stay in the gym and get right with it.
Your story doesn't often end here. Sort of the opposite of Eric's question. Was there a moment where you were like, maybe I should consider doing something else?
Yeah, most definitely. Probably in high school, when I still didn't hit my growth spurt yet. I saw my brother hit his growth spurt. All my friends hit their growth spurt, and I was the shortest one out of all my friends. On my AAU team, I was the one that didn't get a lot of playing time. Funny story. So about 8th grade, we played against Oakland Soldiers in Las Vegas, and it was probably 4 seconds, 10 seconds left, and our coach was looking for somebody to put in the game. And I'm on the end of the bench. I'm like, he looking down, he's coming down. I'm like, oh, please don't pick me. I'm not even looking at him. And we made eye contact, and he put me in the game. I'm like, oh, man. So I'm like, okay. Most important thing was for me to be ready when my name was called. And so winning the game, I thought, I was just going to be a decoy sitting in the corner and, just not get it. But it was a play for me to get a pass in the corner and either shoot it or, skip it, because our point guard was going to beat the guy one-on-one, so they're going to be in rotation. So I got in the corner, pump fake, the guy jumped, and I swung one more, and my teammate hit the game winner. And then we won. So I'm like, oh, that was the first thing I did. I was like, oof. But it was just
welcome to Toronto, and what's been the last 48 hours? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
36 hours. Just maybe walk us through that. Just from, we spoke to you on draft night, but what's it been like prior to arriving here today?
Hectic. a lot of media stuff. Really just learning a lot about the city early. Been talking to a lot of people. I'm just super excited. Got here yesterday. This morning, just did a few things medical wise. Talked to Darko. So really just getting to know everybody and enjoying the city.
What did, based on talking to Darko, obviously he came in here and had a very specific idea of how he wants this team to play offensively. What did he express to you, and how do you think you fit into sort of what he expressed to you?
Yeah, we haven't gotten into that. We just been building our relationship. We just met for the first time in person not too long ago. So really just getting to know each other, talking to each other. That's really it.
Who's been your go-to for getting up to speed on what Toronto's all about?
Everybody, because I've never been here, so this is my first time. So I've just been asking questions, a couple places where I should go or see.
Remind you of anything from down in the States, the city?
New York, yeah.
Not that much different.
On draft night, you had the purple suit on, and then can you talk about the photos that were in the lining of your jacket?
Yeah, just my family members, people obviously mean a lot to me. They've helped me this whole journey, supported me, really done whatever they could. So I just wanted to have them kind of with me the whole way. So put the pictures inside just to always remember.
Jacoby, have you had a chance to speak to any of your new teammates on the Raptors? And if so, who and what were those conversations like?
Yeah, I talked, Emmanuel, he texted me right after. He said, let's get to work, just like that. So, I mean, you can see where the mindset is. We already trying to get to work.
They're putting like these very serious, work-minded people around Scotty, and I really love it. Because obviously, like, all these young players are going to come in, and regardless of whether they're older, a little bit younger, everyone's kind of learning again what it means to be a Toronto Raptor. And for years, it felt like they really wanted to keep these old heads, right? They wanted to keep the Thaddeus Youngs, they wanted to keep the Fred VanVleets, the Pascal Siakams as example, like this is an example of what it means to be a Toronto Raptor. This is who you follow. This is the marching order. This seems to be a pretty big priority for the Toronto Raptors. And Chidso, you came in really late. Scroll back an hour. Yeah, I've never really understood the idea of trying to demand that people rehash things that they've already rehashed an hour ago. Like, just go back. Um, yeah. So I just think that it's really interesting that now your younger players that were supposed to be students are now being put into the position of becoming teachers, right? And that is exactly how this organization needs to grow. You don't need a Garrett Temple necessarily to teach everybody. Cersei cats, and all seem to be religious. Sure. Like, yeah, there's a part of that. Actually, there's this meme slash tweet going around about everyone wearing four, and I just want to like kind of throw this out there. There are several biblical implications of four as well, and the guy on the screen right now, Jacoby Walter, also wore number four. Scotty Barnes also wore number four. Grady Dick also wore number four. Sorry, Chitso. Like, this is getting really annoying at this point. Like, this is a conversation about a lot of things. So I understand that but if you read the description, like, yeah, like we can expand to other topics once we're done this. Sorry if you haven't been around these lives. They sometimes go. If you had showed up 20 minutes ago, this was a conversation about civic duty and condo boards. So sorry, like it goes in and out. So I'm sorry if you just want to look at the trade. You just have to go back like 45 minutes to an hour ago. We talked about a lot of them. We pulled up the trade machine. Do you know what I mean? Like, cool, awesome, yeah. So I think there's a bit there's also the four, like the cross, the four, like the four corners of the cross. So that seems to be like a really biblical implication. A lot of my religious friends, I remember growing up, quite a few of my religious friends had four in their number: 14, 24, 4, 44 even. I remember we played with a center who had 54, and he was like he wanted to have four. So I don't know, it's interesting. Like, I mean, it's just a random thing. The Raptors have drafted 3 back-to-back lottery picks. I think, well, I mean, I consider Jacoby Walter kind of a lottery pick-ish because he was mocked in the lottery. All 3 were 4s. Also, Jalen Green was a 4. Evan Mobley was a 4. I mean, this is a very popular thing that's just happening right now, right? It's just interesting. Yeah.
Follow Davion Mitchell growing up and as a Baylor guy?
He's one of the biggest reasons that I even committed to Baylor. He's what made me take Baylor serious when I saw the way he was playing and the way that their whole play style was. I love his energy. He's came back to Baylor. We've played against each other. So it's kind of cool just to know that now he's going to come over.
Jacoby, I heard on a podcast that you said one of the biggest misconceptions about your game is that you can't create your own shot. Looking forward into the summer, are there like areas that you want to work on almost immediately, kind of figuring out what you want to do?
Yeah, obviously getting to the NBA, there's a lot of things I need to learn. The game, even more IQ-wise, the speed of the game, strength. So there's a lot of things I need to work on. I think my main focus will be just how to play off the ball and create for others.
I mean, what's your first impressions? I mean, I guess through your draft process, you're probably in and out of a lot of practice facilities. I mean, just driving into the city and seeing where you're going to come to work every day. What do you take away from that?
I think this is one of the best facilities I've seen this whole process. I went to a lot of spots, but this one I'd say is up there for sure. It's a really nice facility.
I know you didn't know or you didn't really expect Toronto to be picking you, but how much of a shock was that, considering you didn't do the workout?
I mean, we were still high on Toronto. This is still a place that I thought I fit very well. So when I heard that I was going to be picked, I was excited. A lot of people thought I wasn't excited, but there was just a lot of emotions running, and just all the happiness. It just all came down on me real quick. So yeah, it was a cool experience.
How long did it take for the moment to kind of feel real and settle in?
When they got on the clock, all the emotions started running through my body, and just had to put my head down, pray real quick, just for my future, and then when my name got called, the tears started flowing.
You've been a 5-star prospect coming out of high school, a guy who's been on the national scene for a while now. Is there a moment you can think of growing up that you were like, I can play in the NBA?
I'll say when I got my first offer to Baylor, I wasn't really expecting it, and I was just working. I wasn't even trying to focus on the scholarships, and when I got that, that's when I was like, okay, I can. Now I'm going to the next level, but I still need to put in work because I know what the end goal is.
Have you had a chance to look at your social media at all and see how Raptors fans have kind of flooded every single post?
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of messages. I've read the comments. The fan base is already insane. So just knowing that I got feels like a whole country behind me, it's just really a blessing, and I'm just really grateful for it.
Thanks for watching.
Okay, so overall, I like everything he said. Like everything checks out. He seems to be, a very level-headed kid who has really big basketball goals, and that's always been the case. We talked about it on draft night, where, it seems like he's really in love with the process of getting better. And the Toronto Raptors, starting next week, are going to have a process for them to get better. They're going to, allow them to go home, pack up their things. We talked about it. They talked about it. How they have this entire instructional for them to navigate a new country, and it's kind of interesting to have 4 rookies do it together, right? Chat is just wild right now. I don't know what you guys are doing, bro. Anyways, I think it's pretty cool that all these rookies are going to come in. They're going to learn together, right? Again, there was some mention of we don't want 3-4 rookies, or it might be hard to get 3-4 rookies. And then also Masai Ujiri also had some allusion to that during his presser. And then something along the lines of he said he's going to get in trouble. Like he's going to get in trouble with Dan Tolzman, if I remember that correctly. So clearly this was in the pipeline, right? So a little bit of a misdirection, if you will. Like they were always capable of taking multiple flyers like this. So I think it's gonna be really cool to see these rookies go out to summer league and get better, right? Again, I watched the Raptors get better last year. I watched every individual player sharpen up individual skills and get better. Saw Grady get better, Scotty get better, IQ and RG get better. So okay, let's do it again. Let's see which one of these guys is willing to go. I'm telling you, this team is taking a multiple stabs approach, and they're going to develop. They're going to rebuild. They are back to doing what they did before. I may have issues with the Emmanuel Quickley contract, and I will remain to have issues with the Emmanuel Quickley contract. I may, allegedly, and this came down the pipeline to me this morning. Someone that would know pretty well texted me and said that the Raptors did like Yves Missi. They did like Yves Missi, that he projected well on their board, but that they had Jacoby Walter higher. So like considerably higher. So that makes me think that maybe Yves Missi was 15 or 16 on their board, and maybe Jacoby was 10, 11, 9. I don't know. Who knows where he was on their board? But they felt very confident. Grady, it's a similar situation. Very rarely do you pick a guy where you had him. Very rarely you're going to pick a 20th, guy at 20 that you had at 20 on your board. Most likely what's going to happen is you're going to get a guy at 20 that was either like 16th or 13th. Sometimes you get a guy at 20 that was 5th on your board. I'm not sure where Cam Whitmore was on the Rockets board, but I'm pretty sure like a good example of this is actually Jalen Duren and Jaden Ivey. So Jalen Duren, from what I know and heard, was 6th or 7th or 5th. Like he was in the top 6 on the Pistons board, and they ended up getting a pick, I believe, from. Am I remember this correctly? They traded for a pick. They got him at 13, so they picked Jaden Ivey at 5. He might have been. He was really high on the board, is what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is, for the record, it's going to be like for the fans, it's going to be, oh, they got to pick 5, they got the 5th pick, and they got the 13th pick. What you don't realize is they got the 4th player and the 5th player on their board, right? That's what I think it was. If the Sacramento Kings had picked who they were supposed to pick, which is Jaden Ivey, which, they're probably very happy they didn't, then I believe the intel that I got was that the Detroit Pistons were prepared to pick Jalen Duren at 5. Instead, the Sacramento Kings go for Keegan Murray. They pick Jaden Ivey at 5, who is their 4th or 3rd ranked prospect, and they fall back to 13 and get another pick. So I'm just curious, where were Jonathan Mogbo and Jacoby Walter and Jamal Shed and Uri Kamshe? Where Uri Shamshe on their boards? Here's my estimate. I would estimate that Jacoby Walter was 12th, 11th to 13th on their board. I would estimate that Ibmisi, who they did not pick, was 15th to 17th on their board. I would estimate that Jonathan Mogbo was 19 to 24 on their board, somewhere in there. I would estimate that Jamal Shed was 30 to 34, 30 to 36, somewhere around there. And I would estimate that Uri Shamshe was top 45. Yeah. So that would be kind of like my projection in terms of, so again, it doesn't matter that you got the 57th pick. If you got the guy at 57 that you would have picked first overall, you just got the first overall pick. Now, that's obviously not what happened with Uri Shamshe. But could you imagine if the Raptors ever, what if the Raptors had Uri Shamshe as a borderline first round pick? Like, I don't know. Like, do you know? Do you know for sure that they didn't? We don't know. We don't know how these guys ranked it. I can obviously project that they did not, but it's interesting. And again, sometimes you have a guy like a situation with Terrence Ross. I know that the Raptors, and I think that this has been well confirmed by many outlets, that the Raptors preferred Harrison Barnes in that draft, and they fell back to 8. They picked Terrence Ross, and there's the the trade off. You know what I mean? Terrence Ross was a massive reach. He was a massive reach. So it's interesting. I'm going to be very interested to see Summer League. So I will see you guys tomorrow at 5 p.m. for the free agency show. We can break down all the free agency news as it comes through on Twitter. It should be really fun. We'll have a great community. Hopefully we'll have some call-ins, and it'll be really fun. And Summer League is going to be very entertaining for the first time in a long time, actually, because again, the last time Summer League was kind of entertaining was Scotty Barnes, right? And then the Raptors didn't make that final game. Scotty was pissed, but it was Scotty, Delano, and I have a feeling like, as much as I'm a huge Scotty fan, as most of y'all know, I feel like this Summer League could be even more entertaining because you've got everything. You've got the lottery pick, Grady Dick. Let's see how he does, right? So you got that young player. You're going to have 4 rookies, and you're going to have like a couple of two-way guys. Like, I'm curious, man. I'm really curious. I know you don't mean this. That's funny. Anyways, a lot of just arguing back and forth in this chat. I don't understand it. Go outside. It's Canada Day weekend. Go eat some ice cream. Go water some plants. Do something better with your life than fight with people online, man. It's not worth it. Anyways, I'll talk to y'all later. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Thanks a lot for all the super chats. Thanks a lot for the comments and people who participated. This community grows and grows every single week, and I'm very grateful for you guys. Yeah. And I guess we can leave on this. I love keyboard tough guys. Yeah, me too. It's funny. All right, talk to y'all later. Bye.